In this video, I'm going to reveal secret art style cheat codes for indie developers. It's amazing and you can use it whatever game you're making. It's viable for everybody. If you watch the whole video, there's gonna be a secret gift in this video, so you don't want to miss out. I'm also creating 3 art styles myself, and I'm using the principles that I'm sharing in this video just to show what's possible. It means I'm putting a lot of effort into this video, so if you appreciate this kind of content, please give it a like. It helps out for the YouTube algorithm. My name is Dennis. I create games for a living. I've been creating games for the past 8 years. I love it, and I love hopefully being able to help other people make games as well. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be easier with more resources. Well, everything is defined into shapes, and if you squint your eyes, you'll often be able to see the shapes more clearly. So the shapes are like, if you have a tree, it has a crown, that's the shape of that, and it has the roots and the trunk, and everything is a part of that tree, and that's the shape as a whole, but it also has the individual shapes. Shapes are the first thing when you see a game, because that's what you recognize the fastest. So therefore it's really important. And there's ways to get good shapes. And there's tricks to it, and there's also tricks to decide what shapes do you want in your game. A good test is the sit test. Would you rather sit on a triangle, a square, or a circle? You would choose the circle, of course, because it's soft and it's nice. You would not sit on the triangle. And that's ingrained in our nature, because in nature, predators, they have sharp teeth, and they convey that really clearly in the shape language. So you want to avoid those. It's equal to danger. Triangles, danger, danger, danger. Squares, maybe a bit boring. Maybe something that's constructed by humans. Maybe it's a bit unnatural to have like a perfect square, so it's often like suggested something man-built. And then we have the circle, which is nice and comfortably and something you want to touch, or something you can jump on and you won't get hurt. It's more for when you want something to feel welcoming and nice and calm. What you also can do is to divide your shapes. You can have big shapes, you can have medium shapes, and you can have small shapes. And you want to have some sort of balance between those when you combine your image. So you want a big shape that can grab the attention, but you also have smaller shapes, and those shapes combined can make a medium shape or even be small dots around your canvas. So that's also a thing you can do, both to make a look test, or you can also use it to set up your level design. I use it a lot when I do level design because it makes the whole level more interesting to look at, and it's just a nicer way to play stuff, to set dress your whole level. With shapes comes also silhouettes, and silhouettes is kind of, if you draw an outline around your character and fill it in with black, you see your silhouette, and you can create a shape language from your silhouettes. So let's say all the good guys are circles and all the bad guys are more squares. When your player is used to that and he sees an enemy, he knows, okay, a square is an enemy. So that's a way that it will be coherent, and if you have interesting shapes, it also has interesting silhouettes. Seeing the silhouettes only is a way to start, and it's a way to kind of define what is interesting, what's the interesting shape that I want for my character. Should it have long legs? Should it have short legs? It's all in the silhouette, and you can define those without getting lost in the detail. So if you have a silhouette that's interesting, it's way more important than interesting details. Think about details later, silhouettes always first. Why lighting? Well, when I started out making 3D models, it would always not be great. It would be bad looking 3D models, and that's okay, that's how you start out. But what I learned quite fast is that you can cheat. You can make it look really good with good lighting. Actually, you could make any model and you would be able to kind of make it look good with good lighting. And I suddenly realized, wow, lighting is really powerful and it's really important. So I learned the basics of lighting, and if you have 3D models, you can do kind of like a 3-point setup, which is having a key light, a fill light, and having a backlight. It's great, and you can even hide detail if you don't have a lot of textures. You can hide that in lighting, so you can make it either darker or lighter, and even you can have gradients, compositioning the lights in a proper way. So lighting is everything when it comes to a good composition, and an environment with lights and without lights, it makes a huge difference. I just set up lights in our game Night Out, and for one level, without light it looks flat and boring. With lights it looks amazing. And before you say, oh, this is a 3D game, That doesn't matter because most engines are now supporting lights for 2D as well. So you can have lights on pixel art, you can have lights on another flat art style. It doesn't matter, you can do it. Often it can be hard to define the space. What do you have? Like, do you have something further away or do you have it more close to your camera? And that's often also defined by the lighting. You can have a focus point in the middle and highlight that with the lighting, so you know, okay, this is where I'm supposed to look. Lighting is also great in terms of gameplay because players often go to where the light is and they'll be attracted towards it. So you can lead the player through your levels with lighting, which is great. And you can hide the areas that are not so good. So it's kind of like a budget thing as well. So lighting, thumbs up. So I think this is a very important aspect. The visuals are meant to enhance the gameplay. It's not meant to be just good looking. It's not meant to be a piece of art only. It needs to be integrated with the gameplay. So often you will have cases where this looks amazing, but the player doesn't understand it. For example, like a pickup that doesn't have an outline can fall in with the environment, so the player doesn't know what can I pick up, what can't I pick up. So sometimes you need to enhance it either with an outline or like a shiny surface that goes over the object. And this is like a case where the visuals need to convey the right thing, and the most important thing is the user experience. So you can't have visuals that just look good and the player is confused what is going on. You need to make sure your art style is thinking about the player and the game. It should follow the gameplay. The art style should be ruled by the game and the gameplay. It should not be setting the gameplay. And I think that's a very key factor to know. A good example is also Stardew Valley. It's a nice, calm experience, and the art style totally fits with that. Those two combined just makes a stronger and more impactful game. That's why it's so key. We're also going to talk about the scope, because when you define an art style, you need to think about the scope of your game. Are you going to be able to dedicate 10 artists to work on this game for a year or 2 years or 3 years? Or are you a solo developer developing this game alone in your basement, but only having a few hours each day to work on it? It's so important. And there's so many things you can do with your art style to make it easier. I would say the first tip we have about the shapes is also great here, because you can have a shape that's interesting without a lot of detail in it. Because often details just adds a lot of time you need to spend on it. So details is general a thing that just explodes the budget in some way. You can have a character without arms. I use that all the time. I make characters without arms because arms takes time to animate and I only really need the legs. So it doesn't matter. I made a shooting game, a top-down shooting game, where he shoots from his mouth because I don't want arms. Reuse as much as possible as well. For the set dressing I did on Night Out, I reused the 3 same stones to make the full environment. It's amazing how much you can reuse and nobody will notice. You can cut textures. I mean, if you have good lighting, the textures is not that important. Throw out the texture, spend time on lighting instead, it will make the game feel so much better. You can use all the assets on the internet. However, I want to say assets are good, but you also need to make sure that it fits in with the art style. If you just download a lot of assets and it doesn't fit, it looks messy and it doesn't have a coherent art style. So it is important that you find assets that fits within each other. You can also automate a lot of stuff and find methods to make it faster. There is an animated movie called Claws, and in that movie they had this really expensive art style. So they had to figure out methods to make it easier and to reach that goal that they had. And they really succeeded in having a painterly art style that normally would take maybe just 10 hours to paint one image. But they did it in a way that was economic and feasible. So you gotta think about those aspects as well. You can have a high goal, but you need to make sure that it's within your scope. This was the video. I really hope you enjoyed what you saw. Sorry. The secret gift is that you can download all of these 3 art styles as PNGs, as 3D models, FBX files. It's all yours. I made another video that's about finding the art style for your game. It's a great addition to this video, so you should go watch that next.